Okay.
And they move from the matching stage on to medical screening,
Okay.
the full medical, physical medical screening.
And this is when they go to the clinic, they get all their sonograms done, their blood work done. What does that part look like?
So the medical clearance stage is two parts, really. It is a physical screening for the surrogate and also blood work for her partner or spouse. And it is also a psychological screening and evaluation of both the intended parents and the surrogate, including partners and spouses. And then they have a group meeting as well. So
they meet together?
Yep. So yeah, the intended parents have a meeting with the same consultant, counselor, and the surrogate does the same, and then they meet as a group together.
Okay.
And then once they have documentation on those meetings and from the counselor, the therapist, whoever it is at the time, that is part of the screening and a qualifying factor for all parties to work together. The surrogate is going to need to have a saline stomach histogram. It's a fancy ultrasound of her uterus to make sure everything looks good and that there's nothing to worry about or be concerned about. And then they also do communicable disease screening for the surrogate and her partner and spouse.
That's pretty extensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is, and it definitely needs to be. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone is very healthy going through this process.
That's awesome. All right, so medical screening's done. Now what?
Once that is done, we've already been working with both parties to ensure they have a legal counsel selected that they want to work with for the gestational carrier agreement, which is the legal contract binding the two parties together and how the process needs to work physically, financially, and in making decisions.
Okay, so that's contracts. Everybody's covered. Everybody's safe. They're going through it. There's two different agreements, right? If I'm remembering correctly. The GS and the IP, or is it all one agreement?
It's all one in the end.
Okay.
Yeah, it all comes together. Like they all start with their own information to get started with that contract, but in the end, it's one full document.
One full document. Yeah. Okay.
And they all have different requirements. So like the intended parents are required to have someone as, they need to have like a last will and testament. They need to have something in line for parentage in case something should happen to them during the journey. So this is a question we've had quite often from surrogates is what happens if something happens to the parents? Right. Am I going to be stuck with this baby? And what happens with the baby? And the answer is surrogate never takes the baby home under any circumstance. Okay. It's always the parents and their responsibility. Should the worst case scenario happen, then the parents have someone who is going to become the legal guardian
of that
child in place of them.
Okay. That's very forward thinking, I would say, definitely.
And it's necessary to have that in place before they finish the contracts.
Okay. And then once contracts are done, then we move on to transfer, right?
Yep.
And so what does that look like?
Well, there's a few pieces that have to be done before transfer can officially happen. So between contract and transfer, it's really putting the last little pieces together. So ensuring that the financials are in place with an escrow company that is basically an escrow company holds the funds for the intended parents. They make the deposits, and the gestational carrier agreement lists the minimum that they can put into the escrow fund before they get started with the journey. It has to be in place before the embryo transfer. This is to ensure that the majority of the funds are available at any time for the entire process. So it can be a hefty amount that needs to go into that account, anywhere between 85 to 95,000, depending on what the specifics are of their agreement in the contract, their financial agreements.
That makes sense.
And the other piece that has to be done is life insurance policy is required for the surrogate. So depending on the state and the state's requirements, that can be anywhere from 500,000 to 750,000 to cover the surrogate.
That's a lot.
Yep, it is. But there's a couple of wonderful organizations out there that cover this type of journey or a life insurance that's necessary for a third party reproduction. And they have very good programs in place to make this happen pretty quickly.
Okay. So life insurance is done, contracts are done, money is funded, then it's transfer.
Yep.
Okay.
Then we go over to the IVF clinic again and say, yes, the attorneys will write a letter of legal clearance and they'll send it over to the IVF clinic. So once that's in place, then it is, starting from her cycle day 1.
Which would be the first day of her period.
The first day of her period.
Yes.
Yep.
And so that's where we get into the two different kinds of medicated or unmedicated.
Yes.
And I believe we talked about that before. So we'll skip over that part, and then we get to transfer. And then once the transfer has happened, what happens then?
So after the transfer happens, we have 10 days of crossing our fingers and toes. It's typically about 10 days, between 10 to 14. But at that point, the surrogate's going to go in for a blood test called an HCG test to determine if she is pregnant. We'd like to call this being a little bit pregnant.
A little bit pregnant.
Just a little bit pregnant, because you're going to have an HCG test, and then if it comes out positive, you're going to go in, the surrogate, I should say, is going to go in about 2 days later to do another HCG test to ensure that the numbers are doubling and going further. If the numbers are going up, that's what we want to see. That's fantastic. If they're not, we're all going to cry a little. But we're going with a positive here, and we're saying if the numbers go up, she's a little bit pregnant. And then after that, about 3 to 4 weeks later, she's going to be scheduled for a heartbeat ultrasound. So earlier than most people would ever know they were pregnant even, the surrogate is actually going to have an ultrasound to hear the heartbeat. And once that heartbeat happens, that's when she's considered officially pregnant. So she goes from being a little bit pregnant to being
actually pregnant,
officially pregnant. And in that gestational carrier agreement we were discussing, that is typically the point where she is considered truly pregnant via the contract and the agreement for the surrogacy. And that's when her compensation really starts to
That's when it kicks in.
Yeah, to get kicked in.
Okay, and that's a monthly allowance.
Yeah, it's a monthly installment. The monthly allowance is a little bit different. It's monthly allowance is typically a few $100s a month to cover the essentials, the things that you sort of just need to always have.
So the allowance is different than
the installments.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense. And then after she's pregnant, basically it's just settling in, right, and growing a baby.
So she'll have typically 2 ultrasounds before she is graduated from the IVF clinic. And the second ultrasound is typically another like three weeks or so after the first.
Okay.
And then she will, so she's closer to the end of her 3rd trimester. Calculations in IVF land are very different. So it's technically closer to the end of her 1st trimester. Yes. 3rd month. Okay, my words. Okay, here we go. So yeah, the end of the 1st trimester, and then she's going to start going to her OBGYN.
Her regular OB.
Her OB. Yep.
Okay.
And it's typically the one that she's used before with other pregnancies that she's had, or someone she's been seeing for years.
Okay.
If she's moved, maybe it's somebody new. But it's always, or almost always, up to the surrogate who she chooses for an OB. And somebody who's close and local and easy. And then it's just a standard pregnancy. Because the other piece that happens is once you graduate from your clinic, you're no longer on the medication protocol.
Right.
So when you start, being ready for the surrogacy journey, the actual transfer, you start your medication protocol. And that lasts right up until you have graduated from clinic.
From the clinic, yeah. And then you see your regular OB, you're growing a baby, everything's going great.
A normal pregnancy at that point.
Yep. And then you have the baby. And what happens there?
Well, we're going to not skip over the 20-week ultrasound, because that's one of the most fantastic parts of surrogacy.
That is, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to not skip that one. So you're pregnant, and then around the 20th week, you have your anatomy scan, which is, in any pregnancy, almost everybody's favorite thing to do, because you really get to meet the baby. You get to see the baby, you get to count the fingers, count the toes, see all their little body parts, their spine and their organs. And in most cases, the intended parents will be at that ultrasound with you. Even if they're international, most of them will try to make it to that appointment.
To that appointment specifically.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and you're celebrating the middle of your journey. Like you're halfway
there.
The whole pregnancy. Yeah. It's incredible. And then, the surrogate's going, wow, we're halfway there, and starting to settle in on, okay, it's not so bad. We're going to be there before you know it. And the parents are going, oh my God, we're actually pregnant. We're really pregnant. This is going to really happen. We have to get our everything ready. What are we going to do now?
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. And then the relationship transitions into that. And it's just a great time.
It sounds
good
like
experience. Yep. And then they get even closer. Their bond typically becomes closer and closer through that time and to the end of the pregnancy. And then they're planning for, okay, we're going to have a baby. Yeah. So what does that look like?
Delivery. Yeah. Yeah.
And before delivery, we help them prepare on both sides with a pre-birth delivery plan.
Okay.
And encourage them to go visit the hospital and start talking to the doctors and be present for that. We also encourage doulas. Yeah. So usually around that, 3 months prior, it's a good time to, if you've decided you want to work with a doula, to be choosing your doula and making contact with her and getting that plan in place as well.
And so the birth plan is in place. What's going on with the hospital is in place. You have the baby. The intended parents take that baby and love it up. Yep. And the surrogate gets to witness that, even if she's, just given birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very fulfilling moment for most surrogates. That's the moment that they cherish.
Yeah.
That they really feel is like the reason that they did all of this is so that they can get to that moment. And that vision just locks into your brain as a surrogate when you first see the parents holding their baby.
That's fantastic.
And your mind goes, oh my God, I just did that.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
That whole family model and vision that you're seeing in front of you, you did that. That wouldn't exist without you.
That's amazing.
It absolutely
That's going to be a fantastic feeling. For sure.
It definitely is a fantastic feeling. And every surrogate that we talk to says the same thing. Just that this is what I wanted. This is why I did this. Was to see this family. And a lot of surrogates will go on and have a sibling journey with the parents.
Yeah.
If the journey went well, if they're, healthy, if there was no major complications, and the parents want to have a second child, then usually the surrogate's very open to having another child with them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now they do have to wait at least 12 months before they can have
at least
another embryo transfer.
Right. So that's depending at least 12 months if you've had a vaginal delivery.
Yes, correct.
And I think it's 18 months.
18 months.
If it's a C-section. Okay. That's wild.
It is. It's very wild. But the majority of surrogates say, yes, I'd love to do that again with you. As long as there are no medical complications. Absolutely.
And then there's post-care, which can include them recovering as well as pumping and shipping breast milk.
Yes.
If that's something that they and the intended parents agree on. And just recovery time. But then you don't have to take care of a baby while you're recovering.
True. Very true. Yep. And that's one of the greatest parts about being a surrogate. And some people are like, but that's sad. And it's not really, because number one, the first night after delivery, you get the best night's sleep you've ever had.
Oh, I bet.
It's the best night's sleep. They don't have to check on you a million times. There's no binging and blinging and noises at the hospital. You just get sleep. And then you have usually between 4 to 6 weeks for post-delivery recovery.
Yep.
Yep. And then during that time, it's like rebonding with your own kids. No matter what age they are. You get to really go, okay, I'm just going to go back to focusing on my kids. And there's a lot of surrogates that really treasure that time because we get so busy in our everyday life.
Right.
That it's nice to have time where
that recovery, they still get that time off.
They get the time and they get to really spend the time with their children.
That's amazing.
And in their own life, going like, okay, these are the things I haven't been able to do for the last year.
Yeah.
And things I want to catch up and things I want to do with my kids.
And that's roughly how long it takes through this entire process. Yeah. 1 year to 18 months, I think.
We usually say about a year to 18 months for everything. From first phone call with us to through post-delivery, I would say 18 months.
Okay. Yep. That's amazing. All right. I think that is all the questions I have for today.
Okay.
So, all right. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I think next time I'm going to have to ask you questions.
Ask me questions.
I think that'll be fun.
I'm new.
That's
I don't know anything.
We're going to see what you do know.
So thank you so much for everyone for tuning in and listening to us jabber on about surrogacy.
Which we love to do.
And we will see you next time.
Sounds great.
If you have any questions or you want to write into us, you can email us at info@vtsurrogacy.com. We would appreciate anything you have to say to us.
Absolutely.
All right.
And we respond very quickly.
We do.
I can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.